Hi guys, so this is Joey again. I have more problems with this camera. I have made some Mabon incense and recorded that with the video camera, so I will get that up later. But I've been mulling around in my own head about something, and I thought I'd make a video. Half for myself, because it documents me thinking and talking and better understanding, and then half for other people, so maybe it could bring significance for someone else. I am sat back like this in this angle because I'm just comfortably curled up in my chair and I just wanted to discuss something. And what I was thinking about talking about is sort of the middle point between your own personal power and energy and psychic vampire videos, and it's somewhere between there and between Mabon, which is I talked about going inwards and better understanding your positive and negatives and things like that. So basically this video is Know Thyself and some of the musings, and it will be me rambling probably. So if this video is going to be like that, there may be pauses where I'm thinking, I might be umming and ahhing. There is no script. I've just decided to wing it basically. And I have a splitting headache, so bear with me. It occurred to me that really knowing yourself starts at the point where you stop apologizing for yourself. And by that I don't mean that you take that and then you go be rude to people and whatever, and you don't feel the need to apologize or whatever. I'm going to be drinking water throughout, excuse me. I mean, the point where you know that you are a certain way, and it's okay to be like that. And obviously you have to go through a lot of soul searching and a lot of personal considerations with the things that you decide you're okay with and the parts of yourself which you're not okay with and you want to improve. And the only way to improve and change up yourself is through hard work. And I'm talking in the realms of, I am hesitant to say it, but normal human behaviour. So if this isn't a video which would excuse people whose behaviour is negative towards other people, it's not going to excuse people's behaviour which is attacking anybody else, abusive towards anyone else, anything down that line. No, this is something that to me, to know thyself is to accept your personality within the realms of self, and it's not an excuse to take whatever out on other people. It's nothing to do with other people, generally speaking. It starts off with yourself. Other people can be involved in certain ways, and I'll clarify in a second. So for me, it has come recently to finally be able to acknowledge that I am who I am. I'm quite different from a lot of people I know. And that's okay. So I'm going to give an example now, because people are probably like, what are you on about, woman? So the first example that I'm going to give is that for a long, long time I've gotten on with better older people rather than people in my own age range, and I feel often like you can have a better conversation with people like that. And I often feel that I don't have a lot in common with, not everybody, but a lot of people my own age. I've been through a lot in my life. I had to grow up really fast, and I find it really difficult to how do I put this? To bond with people whose goals and values are just so different from my own. This came up recently, like one of my exes, who is probably the only one I have any communication with, had been to Ibiza with him and his friends, and he'd sent this email like he'd been to a super club, and it was on his bucket list to do before he died. And I was just, nothing could be further away from my bucket list than a super club. I went clubbing when I was young. In fact, when I was underage. I mean, since I've grown up, they've got a lot tighter and more restrictive. But we were underage when we. And the thing is, as well, is that we used to go clubbing even younger in places that were specifically for younger people. We evolved from school. There was a once a fortnight or once a month school thing that was not in the school, it was in the, what would you call it? There's a place next door that ran activities and things. It wasn't a leisure centre, it was more like a hall, and they once a month or something like that had a disco, and that that's quite sad. And then that was pretty young, that was 12, 13, and that evolved into a nightclub which had a night for under 18s, and you had to be over 13. No alcohol, obviously, and it was just dancing. So from that age we went to those, and they evolved to proper clubbing, and we were at 16, probably, and most clubs were 18 over. It was a different. It's a very different time, even though it wasn't that long ago. Well, I say this, it's over 10 years ago now. Oh my god. Oh. But the point is that I was doing that sort of thing from age very young in the underage places that were specifically for that, to proper clubbing all the way up till I was over 24, say 25, not 25, 24, say, and I got bored of it, and it was never hugely thrilling. There was the thrill of not being allowed to. There was this, I've always enjoyed dancing, and the getting ready and going out part, but I just, now I wouldn't care about it, and even back then it wasn't, I don't know, the biggest part of my life. It never has been, and a lot of people my age, and from 18 to my age to maybe even older, they spend all their money on getting drunk every weekend and going out clubbing. I have zero interest in that. And I've always known that I've been a bit different. I mean, my parents used to take the piss, and they went on holiday, just them two, and they came back and told me this story. Now, whatever, but they had been on a coach trip somewhere, and they'd been chatting to another couple, and the woman was a teacher, and they'd been talking about me for whatever reason, and they'd said, oh well, she's a real oddity. She doesn't like theme parks and stuff like that, but she'd rather go to museums and the theatre or whatever. And the teacher woman apparently turned around and said, well, I think that's quite refreshing, actually. I was like, couldn't that woman be my mother? Anyway, So growing up, the whole time is I love bowling, I love going to the cinema, I love going to the pool, you know, pool, like snooker, but pool house, I guess. I would have loved to go to the theatre. I didn't get to go very often. It's quite expensive, even especially now. I used to enjoy those things a lot more than clubbing or getting. I mean, growing up, we had house parties. That was a big thing with the kids. Down with the kids. It sounds so old. When I was growing up, that was a big thing because it was safer, and the parents were happier that the kids would be safer if they allowed them to have house parties while they were out for the night or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember. But I have recently come to realise that I need to stop thinking in my head that I need to be sorry for this. I don't need to be sorry for the fact that I don't like clubbing and getting really, really drunk and really, really sick. And I've always been quite moralistic about my love life and my sex life. And some people have called me old-fashioned about it. Some people have called me judgmental about it. I don't think it's fair to call me judgmental about it, because whilst I personally have always felt that I will only sleep with someone who I am in love with, I don't pass that on to anybody else. I don't judge anybody else if that's not how they want to be. And I understand that some people don't feel that way, and some people have many, many sexual partners. And what I have always said is, if that is the honest truth for them, and that is the honest truth for them, because in so many cases with women it's not the honest truth for them. It's well, if I sleep with him he might like me, or I can do this to prove how much better I am than my mates, because it's a weird thing, because half of society has this double standard where women get badly labelled, and I'm against that. So I'm quite feminist in my outlook, so I think it's a woman's right to be however she feels comfortable being. So, and I have no problem with that. I've been accused of lying about that, and I don't like lying. I don't like liars. I can just about understand what little white lies to save people's feelings, although I would argue that in general, are you really doing them more harm? But I hate liars. I really don't like it. And my mother used to call me a liar all the time, and because she knew how much it pissed me off. And she would go, "Yeah, right." Oh, that phrase. So as long as it is the honest truth, I don't pass any judgment with that. But for me, I wouldn't want to go getting out really razzled with throwing up. I wouldn't want to go out sleeping with multiple partners. I've always been a big advocate of relationships, of being with one person. That again is just my feelings on the matter. I believe in having a soulmate. I'm quite romantic with regards to that. And I believe it. I want to get married once, and I want to spend the rest of my life with that person. And I'm under no illusions that I'm going to get married and it's going to be fairy tales and unicorns. I'm not an idiot. I'm quite realistic in a lot of ways. But fingers crossed that I have found that man. I am sure I have. But you know, you say these things and it will tempt fate. But he is a wonderful man, and he's very understanding, and we have a good relationship, a really strong relationship. And even though no relationship is perfect, and you should never expect it to be, we have a really good system and we talk and we discuss and we compromise, and I think we're pretty much married in every way but name. Excuse me. So I've gone off a little bit, but the point is that I'm never going to be one of those people. Up until recently even, I felt quite bad that I just don't connect with people my own age, that I'm not interested in, oh well, how did you spend your weekend? And your weekend is measured by how drunk you were, by how ill you were in the morning, by how little you can remember it, by how much money you spent on alcohol. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm probably going to come up against opposition. This is not to say I don't like a drink. I like a alcoholic ginger beer, or a Magnus cider, or a Bailey's. Yum. As much as the next person. But I'm happy enough to, if I was to go for a drink, I'd be happy enough to sit in a beer garden chatting with my gnome, or playing cards or something whilst having a couple of drinks. That to me is enjoyable. But for a long, long time I felt really quite bad that I just didn't have the same values. I thought there was something wrong with me. You know, I was like, I don't want to go clubbing. I don't care about it. I mean, there is an aspect of the fact that I put on a lot of weight as due to my life traumas. I come for 8 and I put on a lot of weight, and that is a part of my journey now, is losing weight and getting healthy again. So part of me was obviously shied away from it as well, because I am still, and I was even more, overweight, and I didn't feel pretty in my body. I still don't in my body. I'm still getting there. That is an ongoing journey. And as well with accepting who I am, is forgiving myself. And I will probably get quite teary-eyed now. But I have to forgive myself for putting all the weight on, for example. And I had a hard time with this because of a lot of factors. I've had counselling. So, you know, if anyone else relates to this, then counselling is a good idea if you can cope with it. I had depression. I'd been through a lot of problems and really unpleasant family life, as people could probably pick up on. Again, I'm not going to go into detail with that because I don't want to play victim mode. I don't want to sit here and say, well, I've had all these really terrible things happen to me in my life. Yes, I have, but I don't need to dwell on them. I move away from them, move forward. I mean, I'm not in denial of them, which is something else and is not healthy. But again, I'm not going to focus purely on that, because that will give it power over me, and I don't want to give it power over me anymore. And weight was a consequence of all these other things that happened to me in my life. And it just kept gaining and gaining and gaining, really. When I was 15, I was quite small. Let's go back further than that. I was a slightly overweight child. And once I started to mature and grow up, and I went into puberty, I went into puberty quite early and got booby quite early. I had a grown-up body age 13, even earlier, 11. I, you know, started all the woman stuff. And so as I grew up, the weight came off, and a bit, but I got very conscious around age 14, 15 that I was overweight still, not badly at that point, and I didn't want to be, and so I did something about it, and I went down, and I was a size UK size 8. Tiny. Still curvy, but tiny. I think I can say the next bit without going too much into the family stuff. As a result, my mother started becoming worse towards me. She was overweight. She'd had a really good body when she was younger, and she got overweight, and it was a huge source of her own self-misery, and she took it out on the girls around her. And I lost all the weight, and her hatred for me intensified. And she took it out on me a lot worse. And somewhere along the line, I associated the two. I was left alone more when I was a bit bigger. So somewhere in my head, I've had to forgive myself for putting all the weight on, and then for comfort eating as a result of all the traumas. And I have to walk the middle line between forgiving myself for doing it, but not saying to myself that it's comfort eating is acceptable, because it's not. And not allowing myself to still associate good feelings with food, because somewhere in my head along the line, you know, if I felt bad, I would eat this, or I feel really stressed, I want this. And it tended to be savoury things, if you're interested. A really good example is Diet Coke. The only time my mother would ever do anything for me, really, and it came with all these problems, is if I asked for Diet Coke when we were out shopping in the supermarket. Quite often she would buy it. It was like the only time I would ask for something, and it was okay. And then we'd all drink it. But I mean, that still came with problems, because I would get accused of drinking all of them, and being told I was greedy and fat and all the rest of it, when most of the time that's not what happened. It was like, okay, I'd had 2, but you'd had 2, and then a different sister had had 2, or a boyfriend had had 2. It's not me drinking all of them, and that would be the truth, and it wouldn't matter that that was the truth. That I would get that, yeah, right. As a result, I was quite addicted to Diet Coke for a long, long time, and I drank an awful lot of it. And 2 years ago now, year and a half, maybe 2. The moment I addressed it, and I gave it up, wiped it out from my life, stopped having it, full stop. And now I'm free. I'm free of it. And I just gave up cold turkey one day. I just decided enough is enough. I need to attack this food and weight and health thing one step at a time. And Diet Coke seemed a nice place to start, and I did, and I stopped drinking it. Excuse me. So the weight thing, for me, is a difficult issue, and it's an issue for a lot of women. And it's finding the line between and knowing yourself enough to forgive yourself for having put the weight on. I put a lot of weight on. I was a size 16 at my biggest. I'm now 12 to 14. Half a stone more and I'll comfortably be a size 12. I've always been quite heavy for my E. There goes my foot. My foot's gone numb. Sorry. When I was a UK size 8, I weighed 9 stone, and that's heavier than maybe quite a lot of UK size 8s. And UK size 8s quite often weigh 7 stone-ish. That was something else that used to bother me when I was younger, that I was a size 8, and I knew I was, but I weigh as little. I felt heavy, you know, and it's just the way I'm made. I'm naturally hourglass shaped, so even when I am a size 8, I don't look like this. I still have big boobs, and I go. A measurement of how I was at when I was a size 8, I was a double D, naturally. I'm not gonna go into what I am now, boobs. So made myself giggle. Okay, anyway, so there is the know thyself, forgiving yourself for putting the weight on, and sort of having the relationship with yourself whereby that you're not completely giving into your inner critic. You're not beating yourself up, because I do that. Trust me, I'm a Virgo. It's not telling yourself you're a failure. It's not beating yourself up. It's taking all that crap out that other people have said to you in your life, especially with regards to weight. Weight is a good example of how this happens on every level. But weight is an easy way for me to communicate it with you, because other people have been like, you're fat, you're a failure, you're never going to lose the weight. Why even bother? And people have said things that in the past that have been really upsetting, and that they have never said decent things. The gnome says to me, I knew before I even met up with him that he preferred petite women and slight women. Basically, his ideal size is probably an ideal size 10, and he knows that I may never get to a size 10. I mean, that would be wonderful, but size 12 is probably more realistic for me. I would like to, be healthy. But he said to me that he loves me, and he wants me to get healthy. I mean, weight loss is implied. Because he loves me so much, he wants to spend our lives together, and he wants these to be long, healthy lives. I'm not going to get heart problems because of being overweight. I'm not going to get this problem because of being overweight, etc., etc. And whereas he probably does think in his head that he wishes I was slimmer to be more attractive, he would never say that to me, because he knows that would be counterproductive and hurt me. And he honestly does want us to spend long, healthy lives together. And that is the most amazing way I've ever heard anybody, male or female, and men tend to be useless at this sort of thing. That's the best way I've ever heard anybody put something, in a way which is, I care about you, rather than you're too fat, I might not look it on camera because my face is quite small and I have no desire to show off my body while I'm overweight, but trust me, on this issue, since I have started to accept myself and know myself, and knowing myself is also knowing my triggers, knowing what foods really put weight on me, allowing myself little treats here and there that I know aren't too bad. For example, birthday, I was like, I'm having a takeaway, it's a break from the diet, I accept that I will probably put weight on. And I did. I went up 2 pounds that week, which wasn't that bad. And this week it looks like I might have lost that 2 pounds and another 2 at the minute. Weigh day is Thursday, which is really amazing actually. Losing 4 over this week is pretty good going. I have lost my... right, so it is knowing my triggers, knowing myself, forgiving myself for putting the weight on in the first place, and just pushing forward. Since I implemented this, I have lost 1 stone and 3 pounds, I think it is. I have it written down somewhere. It's either 3 pounds or 2 pounds and a stone. So it works. And that is obviously something that has to click within before you can change without. Oh dear. So with Mabon coming up, Mabon is a time of balance, of understanding yourself, of looking in, of knowing thyself. Knowing your own energy was, excuse me, was something that I talked about in another video as a part of being careful of what energy you're putting out there. Becoming your own friend, and for years and years I was like, I didn't really understand it. When people are like, you've got to become your own best friend, I was like, I don't really understand how I could be more of a friend to myself. I don't get it. The thing is when you are being your own best friend, it's from an honest place. And I've only recently come to a point in my life where I can be completely honest, because before I was surviving, I was coping, I was grieving, I was dealing with all outflow of crap. And it hurt me really, because I lost 8 years of my life to stress, to horror, to trauma, to people that then preyed on me in my weaker state. Everything fell apart. And my life has shifted dramatically. When I went to school, I was an overachiever. I was expected to go to university, fly through, straight through, get a top job, be earning X amount of money by now. And I've had people tell me I was expecting you to be the person who was on 50k by now, which hurt me at the time because I was still coping. And I don't really need to be made to feel like a failure for not having followed that path. That's not what life had in store for me. That wasn't my path. I am now in a place where I am basically a homemaker, which is not something I ever really wanted, but it gives me the opportunity to focus on writing novels so that I can get those novels written and then try and be published. And I will bloody well be published if I have to knock down every door. I will get published. It's my last big dream, and I honestly believe that is the way for me. That, getting married and having a family. And part of me has had to reconcile with that. As a young person, I was an overachiever. I got all the top grades. I mean, if we're going to get with it, when I did A-levels, I took sociology. I was top 3 in the whole of the United Kingdom for that year. I have the document over there to prove it. Yeah, I was an overachiever, and in my own head, I wanted that life. I wanted the career-driven self. I wanted the money. I wanted the materialism. I wanted all the stuff, and through the actions of other people, I had my life ripped to pieces. And there was a sense of injustice, and that lingered when the person in question confessed and was not sentenced. UK justice system fucking up one family at a time. And for a long time, I just could not reconcile who I used to be and where I was going. And it's hard. It is hard. But, oh, and I am not going to say I know myself completely. No, I am 27. I've been through a lot. And I am just starting to know myself, to understand my place in the world, to not feel like I have failed, to not beat myself up, to not compare myself to other people because there's no point, to accept that my values are not wider societal values for youth, maybe. I'm quite strongly feministic. I believe in equality. Equality, because so many people really don't understand what feminism is. People think that feminism is the stereotype, and it's hating men. It's bollocks. That's absolute bollocks, and I could do a whole other video on it. But basically, equality, women deserving equal pay and equal standing, and yada yada yada. I've always been strong and open-minded and opinionated, but I am set in certain ways with some things, and I try my very, very best to not be judgmental. This is part of me that I'm still working on, and I will be working on it until I am buried 6 feet under and probably on the next cycle round. Because being judgmental is a difficult thing to overcome in anybody. You see a certain person, you think that they are a certain way, and you have to stop yourself every single time. So this is me rambling. Apologies. So let's just sum up and finish up, I think, for now. If I think of something else I desperately need to say, I'll put a different video up. But this is basically a video log, a vlog or whatever, of a Mabon activity for me, which is Know Thyself, which is sitting here and talking out loud and hearing the words and processing them, and to start understanding myself, really listening to myself rather than listening to what other people have said about me, about having preconceived ideas, about thinking that there's something innately wrong with me, or overcoming that negative shit that often is so much harder to shift when we have attached it to ourselves rather than outwards. It can be a lot easier to forgive I don't know, outside of ourselves, which I think, again, we have to be careful with, because some people will just walk all over us. I'm not going to advise being a doormat. I never will. I'm quite, I don't know how, I'm a strong person. It's took me a long time to get back to feeling like a strong person, but what I've been through would kill lesser people, and it has. And it's not lesser people, it's not the right way to say it. If I have survived and been strong through a lot of crap, and that's okay. That is okay. I should be proud of my moments of strength, proud of standing up for myself and others who were in a position of weakness, of victim, and I stood up for us, and I was strong. And I have to congratulate myself with that, but not become preoccupied with it. Say, yes, this happened. Yes, this was shit. This is damn awful. You'd survive like this. You were strong like this. You have to throw away who you thought you were going to be, and preconceived expectations that have been put on you which aren't even your own. Throw that all out the door and start again, and that's okay. Because since I've started doing this, I have learned how to see the world better, to understand how to feel happier. And for me, and this is a good place to finish off, like a little suggestion lesson to finish off with, I think, that I have learned, and is my personal belief, which is concerning happiness, which all my life, all I could think was, as I really hope someday I really feel happy. And what it is, for me, is to understand that nobody is happy all the time, and that happiness is moments of happiness rather than a continuous all the time thing. It's not like a blanket cover. It is literally moments that make you really, really happy, and remembering those moments punctuated through time, because even in some of the darkest places, you have moments where little bits of light shone through and helped you to grow. And that's how I look at it now. I can take pleasure in things that are simple and easy. me and the gnome learning a new recipe together and trying out something new, helping somebody and them being pleasant, getting a really nice comment on a YouTube video, for, you know, that's a new thing for me. Little like bursts of happiness, and realizing that happiness isn't just all the time. And for me, it may never be all the time. And I don't know if anyone else feels happy all the time, but I wouldn't believe them if they said they did. Everybody feels up, everybody feels down, and that's just part of the balance of life. The problem is when you get too focused on one or the other, I think. And that is why I'm releasing this video, because this video is knowing yourself and finding the balance within yourself, which is what Mabon is all about. So I will end it there, 40 minutes in.